Now we come to Sutta 4.16.159. On a certain occasion, the Venerable Ananda was staying at Kosambi in Gosita Park. Now on that occasion, a certain nun addressed a monk saying, "Come, you good fellow, go to Master Ananda, and on coming to him in my name, worship with your head the feet of the worthy Ananda and say, 'Sir, a nun named so-and-so is sick, in pain, stricken with a sore disease. She worships with her head the feet of the worthy Ananda.' And you say this, 'It would be a good thing, sir, if the worthy Ananda would visit the nun's lodging where that nun is, out of compassion for her.' 'Yes, lady,' replied that man, and went to the Venerable Ananda and did as he was told. Then the Venerable Ananda, robing himself and taking bowl and outer robe, went to visit that nun. Now that nun saw the Venerable Ananda from far as he was coming, and on seeing him she covered her head and lay down on a couch. Then the Venerable Ananda came to where she was, and on reaching her sat down on a seat made ready. As he sat there, the Venerable Ananda said this to that nun, "Sister, this body has come into being through food, is dependent on food. The food must be abandoned. Sister, this body has come into being through craving, is dependent on craving. Craving must be abandoned. Sister, this body has come into being through pride, is dependent on pride. Pride must be abandoned. Sister, this body has come into being through sexual intercourse. Sexual intercourse must be abandoned. The breaking down of the bridge which is in sexual intercourse has been spoken of by the Exalted One. Sister, as to this saying, this body has come into being through food, is dependent on food. The food must be abandoned. It was said in this connection. Herein, sister, a monk takes food with reflection and judgment, not for sport, not for indulgence, not for personal charm, not for beautifying, but just enough for the support, for the upkeep of body, for its resting unharmed, for living the holy life. He takes food with a thought, thus do I check my former feelings and set going no new feeling. Thus maintenance shall be mine, blamelessness and comfort in life. Then some time later, though dependent on food, he abandons food. As to the saying that body has come into being through food, whatever was thus said was said in this connection. Sister, as to the saying, this body has come to being through craving, is dependent on craving. Craving must be abandoned. It was said in this connection. Herein, sister, a monk hears it said. They say that such and such a monk, by destroying the asavas, himself in this life, thoroughly comprehending it, realizes the release by mind, the release by wisdom, which is free from the asavas, and having attained it, abides therein. To him it occurs, surely I too, by destroying the asavas, etc., having attained it, shall abide therein. Then some time later, though dependent on craving, he abandons craving. As to the saying, sister, that body has come into being through craving, is dependent on craving. Craving must be abandoned. Whatever was said thus was said in this connection. Sister, as to the saying, this body has come into being through pride, is dependent on pride. Pride must be abandoned. It was said in this connection. In this case, sister, a monk hears it say. They say that such as such a monk, by destroying the asavas, etc., having attained the release by wisdom, abides therein. To him it occurs thus, that one, by destroying the asavas, can realize and attain and abide in the release by wisdom. Then why not I? Then some time later, though dependent on pride, he abandons pride. Sister, as to the saying, this body has come into being through pride, is dependent on pride. Pride must be abandoned. It was said in this connection. Sister, as to the saying, this body has come to being through sexual intercourse, is dependent on sexual intercourse. Sexual intercourse must be abandoned. The breaking down of the bridge which is in sexual intercourse has been spoken by the Exalted One. Thereupon the nun rose from the couch, put her upper robe on one shoulder, fell with her head at the feet of the Venerable Ananda and said, "O sir, my fault overcame me, who am so foolish, so stupid, so wrong that I acted thus. O sir, let Master Ananda acknowledge my fault as such, for my restraint in future time." And Ananda said, "Verily, sister, your fault overcame you, thus foolish, thus stupid, thus wrong that you acted thus. But inasmuch as you, sister, have seen your fault as such and have confessed it as it is right, we do acknowledge it of you. This indeed, sister, is growth in the discipline of the Aryan. When seeing his fault as such, one makes confession as is right and comes to restrain in future time." This is one of the suttas which shows the danger of the holy life, the attraction for the opposite sex. And this nun had evil intentions when she asked Venerable Ananda to visit him. That's why the Buddha said it's advisable for a monk to talk with a woman, with another person present, if possible. And perhaps Venerable Ananda knew the intentions of this nun. That's why he chose this topic to talk. And so it had its effect on the nun, and the nun realized her fault. So again, as I said, this shows the danger of the holy life, and most monks disrobe because of some woman. Today we come to 4.16.160. And this sutta, I won't read out the whole sutta, just a portion of it. The Buddha said, monks, these four things conduce to the confusion, to the vanishing away of Sat Dhamma, true Dhamma. What for? In this case, monks, the monks get by heart a text that is wrongly taken, with words and sense that are wrongly arranged. Now monks, if words and sense are wrongly arranged, the meaning also is misleading. This is the first thing which conduces to the confusion, to the vanishing away of Sat Dhamma, true Dhamma. Then again, the monks are difficult to speak to, possessed of qualities which make them difficult to speak to. They are stubborn, incapable of being instructed. This monks is the second thing. Then again, those monks who are widely learned, versed in the doctrines, who know Dhamma by heart, who know Vinaya by heart, who know the summaries by heart, these do not dutifully hand on a text to another. Thus, when they pass away, the text is cut down at the root. It has nothing to stand on. This is the third thing. Yet again, the elder monks live in abundance. They are lax, taking the lead in backsliding, shirking the burden of the secluded life. They set going no effort to attain the unattained, to win the goal not won, to realize the unrealized. So the generation that follows comes to follow their view. That generation also lives in abundance, is lax, takes the lead in backsliding to the worldly life, shirking the burden of the secluded life. They set going no effort to attain the unattained, to win the goal not won, to realize the unrealized. This, monks, is the fourth thing which conduces to the confusion, to the vanishing away of Sat Dhamma, true Dhamma. That's the end of what I want to read in this sutta. So here, this is one of the few suttas where the Buddha gives the reasons why the true Dhamma would vanish away in the future. The first one is the words and sense of the Dhamma are wrongly arranged, and the meaning also is misleading. This one could refer to the wrong teachings that the Buddha predicted would appear 500 years after the Buddha's parinibbana, and because of what the Buddha calls counterfeit teachings, false teachings that appear and multiply. So this is one reason for the vanishing of the way of the true Dhamma. So we have to study the Dhamma and know which are the wrong teachings. It is not easy because we have to study quite a lot to know which teachings are contradictory, which teachings are consistent. And if we do that, we'll find that the earliest four Nikayas, those are the books which are very consistent, whereas later books, there are contradictions in the later books. And the second reason is that the monks are not interested in the training. The Buddha always talked about the training for a monk, Sikkhapada, the practice of the holy life. And there are some monks who are stubborn and they refuse to change their bad habits. They won't take instructions. And so because of that, they cause people to lose faith in the Sangha. And when people lose faith in the Sangha, they turn away from the religion. So that is why, like in the forest tradition in Thailand, they don't ordain somebody very easily. Somebody who wants to ordain as a monk, first they come in as what they call a pakao, one who wears the white cloth. And that is 8 precepts. They keep the 8 precepts for a minimum of 6 months. And then after that only, they are given the Samanera precepts. And then after at least 6 months as a Samanera, then they ordain in the higher ordination. So this gives time to examine the candidate to see whether that person is really suitable for the higher ordination. Then the third reason is that the senior monks who are learned in the Dhammavinaya, they don't hand the text to another. In the earlier days, the Dhamma, the suttas, was not put down in writing, so it was transmitted verbally from one monk to another. So if the earlier monks, if they were lazy and they did not take the trouble to memorize the suttas and hand down from one generation to another, the suttas would have disappeared. So now the suttas are in writing, but now we have to take the trouble to teach the Dhamma Vinaya, the suttas and the Vinaya, so that they are well propagated, so that people know the true teachings of the Buddha, so people are not confused with wrong teachings. So it is our duty to teach and also to spread by perhaps printing of books, by tapes, etc. Then the fourth reason for the disappearance of the true Dhamma is the senior monks. Theras, they live in abundance, they are lax, they take the lead in backsliding, and they don't make any effort to attain the goal of the holy life, which is to end our suffering, to end the round of rebirths. So because the senior monks set the example, the junior monks also follow them and become lax, live in luxury, etc. So this is another reason why the true Dhamma would pass away. So we have to be careful of these reasons and try to lead our life and conduct ourselves so that we can preserve the true Dhamma. Now we come to Sutta number 4.17.162. The Buddha said, "Monks, there are these 4 modes of progress." What 4? The painful mode of progress with sluggish higher knowledge, abhinya. The painful mode with swift higher knowledge. The pleasant mode of progress with sluggish higher knowledge. The pleasant mode of progress with swift higher knowledge. These are the 4 modes of progress. And of what sort, monks, is the mode of progress that is painful with sluggish higher knowledge? In this case, a certain one is by nature passionately lustful. He experiences the perpetual pain and dejection that are born of lust, raga. Likewise, he is by nature malicious. He experiences the perpetual pain and dejection that are born of ill will, dosa. Likewise, he is by nature deluded. He experiences the perpetual pain and dejection that are born of delusion, moha. In such a one, these 5 controlling faculties are dully manifested, namely, the controlling faculty of faith, of energy, of mindfulness, concentration, and the controlling faculty of wisdom. Thus, owing to the dullness of these 5 faculties, sluggish is is his attainment of the concentration that follows on for the destruction of the asavas. This, monks, is called the progress that is painful with sluggish higher knowledge. And of what sort, monks, is the mode of progress that is painful but with swift higher knowledge? In this case, a certain one is by nature passionately lustful, malicious and deluded, and he experiences the perpetual pain and dejection that are born of lust, ill will and delusion. In such a one, these 5 controlling faculties are manifested in abundance, namely the controlling faculty of faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration and wisdom. Thus, owing to the preponderance of these 5 faculties, swift is his attainment of the concentration that follows on for the destruction of the asavas. This, monks, is called the progress that is painful, but with swift higher knowledge. And of what sort, monks, is the mode of progress that is pleasant, but with sluggish higher knowledge? In this case, a certain one is not by nature passionately lustful. He does not experience the perpetual pain and dejection that are born of lust, nor is he by nature passionately malicious. He does not experience the perpetual pain and dejection that are born of ill will, nor is he by nature deluded. He does not experience the perpetual pain and dejection that are born of delusion. But in such a one, these 5 controlling faculties are dully manifested, namely the controlling faculty of faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration and wisdom. Thus, owing to the dullness of the 5 faculties, sluggish is his attainment of the concentration that follows on for the destruction of the asavas. This, monks, is called the mode of progress that is pleasant, but with sluggish higher knowledge. And of what sort, monks, is the mode of progress that is both pleasant and accompanied by swift higher knowledge? In this case, a certain one is not by nature passionately lustful, malicious or deluded. In such a one, these 5 controlling faculties are manifested in abundance, namely the controlling faculty of faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration and wisdom. Thus, owing to the preponderance of the 5 faculties, swift is his attainment of the concentration that follows on for the destruction of the asavas. This, monks, is called the mode of progress that is both pleasant and accompanied by swift higher knowledge. So these are the 4 modes of progress. That's the end of the sutta. This sutta, the Buddha is trying to say that when we cultivate the holy path, we practice to get out of samsara, there are 4 types of progress. You can either have a painful or a pleasant type, and also with either sluggish attainment of the higher knowledges or swift attainment of the higher knowledges. And what is the cause of painful progress? Painful progress is to be found in a person who has these 3 weaknesses: lust, anger or ill will, or hatred. And the third one is delusion. If these 3 qualities are very strong in a person, he is continually he experiences the pain and dejection due to these 3 things. So because of this, these 3 things are always bothering him, so his progress is always painful. But then there are certain suttas where the Buddha said, when a monk is cultivating the holy path, sometimes it can be very painful. There can be a lot of frustration, there can be a lot of mental suffering in addition to the physical suffering. And the Buddha said, in spite of all that, the Buddha said the monk should grit his teeth and bear it and continue to strive. And then one day he'll pass that stage. So this is a painful progress in the holy life due to these 3 factors: lust, hatred or ill will, and delusion. And if a person does not have these 3 things to bother him, then he makes pleasant progress. If a person does not have strong lust or a lot of ill will, or a lot of delusion, then the holy life is not so painful. It is in fact can be quite pleasant if he knows how to practice and attain the bliss of meditation. And then sluggish attainment of the higher knowledges or swift attainment of the higher knowledges depends on the 5 controlling faculties. How strong these 5 things are in that monk: faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. So if these are strong, there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of effort to cultivate these 5 things, then the monk will attain the concentration very fast. If these 5 things, especially the energy, the mindfulness, and the energy and the mindfulness, if he puts a lot of energy and mindfulness in his practice, then concentration will come quite quickly. And it is said here that the concentration that follows on for the destruction of the asavas. So here it is very clear that for the destruction of the asavas, you need very good concentration, very strong concentration, a perfect concentration, which is defined in the suttas as one-pointedness of mind, attainment of the jhanas, or sometimes is stated as the 4 jhanas. So it's very clear here that concentration is a very important quality for the destruction of the asavas. So that's the sutta. Now we come to another sutta to see how these are applied. 4.17.167. The Venerable Sariputta went to visit the Venerable Moggallana, the great Mahamoggallana, and on coming to him greeted him courteously, and after the exchange of greetings and courtesy sat down at one side. So seated, the Venerable Sariputta said to the Venerable Mahamoggallana, Moggallana, your reverence, there are these 4 modes of progress. What 4? The mode of progress that is painful with sluggish higher intuition, etc., as before. Now, your reverence, by way of which of these 4 modes of progress was your heart released from the asavas without grasping? And the Mahamoggallana, the Arahant, said, Sariputta, your reverence, there are, as you say, these 4 modes of progress. Now, of these 4, the one I followed was the mode of progress that is painful but with swift higher intuition. By way of this mode of progress was my mind released from the asavas without grasping. That's the end of the sutta. So in this sutta, I purposely read this sutta to let you know that Mahamoggallana, one of the greatest disciples of the Buddha, in his cultivation of the holy path, the holy life, he was having a lot of he had an abundance of greed, hatred, and delusion, lust, greed, hatred, and delusion, and these hindered his progress. His progress was painful. He was continually bothered by these things. But in spite of that, he made a lot of effort, and then he became an Arahant. So from this, we can get inspiration. We can get consolation to know that even somebody so great like Mahamoggallana, his progress in the holy life was painful because of a strong lust, hatred, and delusion. So if we cultivate the holy life and we find we feel that practice of the holy life is so difficult, and we are not getting inspired, then we should think of somebody like Mahamoggallana. If we follow his example and strive, one day we'll also come to distinction. And then Sutta 4.17.168. Now the Venerable Mahamoggallana went to visit the Venerable Sariputta, etc., etc., and said this to him, Sariputta, your reverence, there are these 4 modes of progress as before. Now, your reverence, by way of which of these 4 was your heart released from the asavas without grasping? And Venerable Sariputta answered, Moggallana, your reference. There are, as you say, these 4 modes of progress. Now of these 4, the one I followed was the mode of progress that is pleasant with swift higher knowledge. By way of this mode of progress was my heart released from the asavas without grasping. So in this sutta you find that the Venerable Sariputta, he had what we say stronger paramis, stronger, better, higher perfections of character, so that he was not very much disturbed by lust, hatred and delusion. So his progress was pleasant, and because he made great effort, it was also very swift. Now we come to Sutta number 4.17.169. This is quite an important sutta. Monks, these 4 persons are found existing in the world. What for? Herein, monks, a certain person in this very life is set free, but with some effort. Again, another person is set free when body breaks up, with some effort. Herein again, monks, a certain person is set free in this very life, but without effort. Yet again, another person is set free when body breaks up, without effort. Now, monks, how is a person one who in this very life is set free, but with some effort? In this case, a monk lives contemplating the loathsomeness of body, aware of the repulsiveness of food, aware of his distaste for all the world, aware of impermanence in all the conditioners, sankharas. Thus, awareness of death is well implanted in the very self. He lives dependent on these 5 powers of a pupil: the power of faith, that of conscience, that means the fear to do wrong, remorse means a sense of shame of having done wrong, and energy and the power of wisdom. In him, these 5 controlling faculties are also manifested in abundance, namely the controlling faculty of faith, energy, recollection or mindfulness, concentration and wisdom. Thus, by the preponderance of these 5 controlling faculties in this very life, he is set free, but with some effort. And how, monks, is a person again set free when body breaks up, with some effort? In this case, a monk lives contemplating the loathsomeness of body, aware of the repulsiveness of food, aware of his distaste for all the world, aware of impermanence in all the conditioners. Thus, awareness of death is well planted in the very self. He lives dependent on these 5 powers of a pupil, namely the power of faith, conscience, remorse, energy, wisdom. But in him these 5 controlling faculties are dully manifested, namely the controlling faculty of faith, energy, recollection or mindfulness, concentration and wisdom. Thus, by the dullness of these faculties, he is set free, but with some effort when body breaks up. And how, monks, is a person set free in this very life, but without effort? In this case, a monk aloof from sense desires, etc., etc., enters and abides in the first jhana, the second jhana, third jhana, fourth jhana. He lives dependent on these 5 powers of a pupil, that is faith, conscience, remorse, energy and wisdom. In him the 5 controlling faculties are manifested in abundance, that is faith, energy, recollection, concentration, wisdom. Thus, by the preponderance of these 5 controlling faculties, he is set free in this very life without effort. And how, monks, is a person again one who is set free without effort when body breaks up? In this case, a monk aloof from sense desires, etc., enters on the 4 jhanas and abides therein. He lives dependent on the 5 powers of a pupil, but in him the 5 controlling faculties are dully manifested. Owing to the dullness of these 5 faculties, it is not till body breaks up that he is set free without effort. So these are the 4 persons found existing in the world. Here, this sutta is about the arahants, how they attain arahanthood. So here we find there are different conditions. There is one who is set free before he is dying. He attains arahanthood before he dies. And it can be with effort or it can be without effort. And then there's another type who only attains arahanthood on his deathbed when he is dying. And that also with effort or without effort. And then we find the first one, the one who is set free before death, with some effort, he does not have the 4 jhanas, but the 5 faculties are strong. Because the 5 faculties, 5 controlling faculties are strong, then he is set free before death. The second one is set free at death, but with some effort. With effort. Also, he does not have the 4 jhanas, but he has the 5 faculties in quite weak. His 5 faculties are weak, and then he's set free only when at the time of dying. And the third one, he's set free before death, but without effort. And this one possesses the 4 jhanas, and the faculties are also very strong. And the last one is set free only at the death, and without effort. He possesses the 4 jhanas, but the faculties are weak. So, when a person possesses the 4 jhanas, you can see from here that he attains arahanthood without effort. So, with the 4 jhanas, he attains arahanthood without effort. Whereas without the 4 jhanas, he needs effort. But this does not mean that he does not have any jhana, because in all these cases, he has the 5 faculties. And in the 5 faculties, you'll notice, the 5 faculties are faith, energy, recollection or mindfulness, concentration and wisdom. So one of the faculties is concentration. And concentration, perfect concentration, even for the faculties, are the 4 jhanas. So when you say that the faculties are weak, it means probably that he has only 1 jhana. 1 jhana or 2 jhanas, probably 1. And then when the faculties are strong, probably he has 2 or 3 jhanas. 2 or 3 jhanas. Whereas when the faculties are perfect, then he has all the 4 jhanas. Because in the earlier suttas we read that an arahant and an anagami must possess the jhanas to attain anagami and arahanthood. So that's about the jhanas. And then you notice that all of them, they contemplate the loathsomeness of the body, aware of the repulsiveness of food, aware of the distaste for the world, aware of impermanence in all the conditioners. Thus, awareness of death is well planted in the very self. So this awareness of death is one thing that is very important. If we practice the holy life, we should always contemplate death. Always remember that death is very near. Anytime we can pass away. Firstly, it gives us a sense of urgency, and secondly, because of that, as a result of that, we are more mindful. Our sati is stronger. Sati is very important for concentration, and concentration is very important for the destruction of the asavas. So that's the one thing you have to remember. These few things: loathsomeness of the body, repulsiveness of food, distaste for the world, impermanence in all the conditioners and the conditioned things. Then awareness of death. Then the second thing we want to note is the 5 powers of a pupil. Pupil is one who is cultivating the holy life. And these 5 powers of a pupil are faith. Faith is quite important. That means having trust or confidence in the Buddha's teachings, especially. Normally we say in the triple gem. Basically, it is the Dhamma. And then conscience. Conscience is the fear to do wrong. That means before you do any wrong, you have that fear of doing wrong. And then that is hiri. Then the third one is remorse. Remorse is a sense of shame. Sense of shame if we have done anything wrong. We regret it. That is ottappa. these two things, conscience and remorse, hiri ottappa, they're quite important qualities for a person on the spiritual path. And then energy and wisdom. These are the 5 powers of a pupil. And then the 5 controlling faculties, faith, energy, recollection or mindfulness, concentration and wisdom. These 5 things are also very important. These are part of the 37 Bodhipakya Dhammas. And the Buddha said that when the Noble Eightfold Path is perfected, all the 37 Bodhipakya Dhammas are perfected. The faculties, the powers, the Bojjhanga, the Aryan Eightfold Path, etc. So you can see that for liberation in this life, these few things are important. The constant contemplation of death, then the 5 powers of a pupil, the 5 controlling faculties, and the jhanas. If you have the jhanas, then we don't need so much effort. But then we have seen in some earlier sutta that the jhanas are important if we want to attain anagami or arahanthood. And some people, because they find attaining the jhanas are so difficult, then we can concentrate on listening to the suttas, because the Sotapanna and the Sakadagami, we don't need the jhanas. And in the suttas, we find that a lot of people enter the stream from listening to the suttas. So it is good. We put more effort on learning the suttas. Once we have this foundation, later we can concentrate on attaining concentration.